I told you guys I was done with old cars, and here's another one. Let's get started. Actually, before I made my decree that I was done working on old cars, 2 months ago, this good customer scheduled her truck. Was her brother's truck, and there's some personal attachment to it. She asked, can you please fix it? We took on the job. And the truck showed up, and I was like, I thought we were done working. And Crazy D in the office said, no, you scheduled this 2 months ago. I was like, oh, okay. Well, I guess we do have to work on it then, because I'm not going to kick her to the curb. Very nice customer, very pleasant to deal with. This thing is in very, very good shape. It has some odd things about it that doesn't make sense. We're going to take a look around it and talk about what we're going to do to it today. But before we get started, this is a 71 Chevy C10 with a small block. These are beautiful trucks. They are also very expensive. You can find them all day long on Facebook Marketplace that the paint is all bad, it barely runs, and they're still 10 and 15 grand and up. It's really crazy how expensive they can be. I'm not sure what this one is worth. Probably easily 30, 40 grand, maybe more. So before we get diving into all the mechanical stuff, let's take a look at it. Let's go ahead and walk around this beautiful truck. It's very, very clean. Here we have the front grille. It's called the egg crate grille of this beautiful 71 C10. It has the iconic, beautiful front end, and it also has the turn signals in the bumper or park lamps. Looks really good. As we come to this side, you can see it's 8-cylinder, 350 small block. It's got very interesting hubcaps. It looks like outer lug nuts, but those are just decorative. They're not actually lug nuts. I've never seen those before. It's actually very cool. The paint is very nice on here. I'm sure you could find a flaw if you wanted to, but from a distance, it is very, very nice paint job. No dents or scratches. All the cladding is intact. And that's one thing I really like to see, is that it's not cobbled together with just various bits and pieces from various years and makes and models. It is all the original, correct cladding.
You mean they didn't install it like they did on that Isuzu Trooper with house screws?
Yeah, Home Depot drywall screws. Here's the Chevrolet emblem. All the lettering is intact in very nice condition. Someone did a very good job of bringing this truck back to its glory. On this side, same story, very nice paint, no dents. If we peek into the bed, we can see it has yellow truck bed coating. No scratches there either. Same thing with the cladding on this side. Everything's intact and present, which is really nice. Very, very good restoration on the paint. Very happy with that. Let's open the hood real quick. Here is our small block Chevy. You can see the only accessory is the alternator, and that's actually strange on this, and we'll talk about that here in a bit, but there should be other things there. Everything looks to be done very well. It's got the correct orange paint on the engine, and it runs very well. Rides, drives, does everything very nicely. Radiator's not leaking, nothing's leaking except for the transmission pan gasket, which we are going to solve while it's here, but it's a very small, minor leak. But everything under the hood is where it should be. It looks like a 1971 under here, and it's very nice. Let's go ahead and hop into the interior and give you guys a tour.
Welcome, ladies, gents. This is just a time capsule here. This is amazing. It says it has 93,686 miles on it. And who knows, that might be 193. But with the condition of this thing, I bet that's pretty accurate. As we move around, simple gauges. We've got our oil pressure. We've got our temperature. We've got the battery. Simple pull for our lights over here. And of course, it does have our gear shifter here on the column. The dash is looking really nice. It does have a partial shelf here where it does have the vinyl, and then it goes to our metal dash as well. Again, but there's no cracks, nothing tore up over there. It looks nice. The metal dash, because this is the era of metal, which does make it nice when you need to install magnets on your front dash to keep track of things, but it is in great shape. They did add a Pioneer radio because the age of this truck would have had an AM only radio. So that definitely does increase this car drastically. There's some very simple HVAC system there. Defrost, air, and heat. Nothing else. There was no AC installed on this model. They would have had it during that time, but not on this one. You can see right over there is one of the vents for the floor. And as we move to our door cards, they have some nice leather, white leather scroll work around that frames where the handle is and the wood trim. We can tell that the handle was replaced because that is a much brighter white, which is not shocking because those plastic door handles can only be used so many times before they disintegrate. Again, we have more yellow accents on our door, and as we move to the back as well, we can see it's all the way around the window and on our ceiling as well. There is no headliner. It is all metal. We do have vinyl seats. No tears, no rips. And we can see they have some more of that scroll work there, also on the seats that matches the door cards as well. As we move to our steering wheel, simple horn button right there. This era of truck, whether it's Chevy, whether it's Ford, they look very similar in nature, very simple, easy to use, and all around just a good classic truck. I'm curious what else Wizard has to talk about.
So the truck is only here for a few things. The customer who owns this is not a mechanic. They are not a mechanically minded person, so it's understandable that they don't fully know what's going on under the hood, and there's no trouble with that. That's why we're here. She's concerned that the truck doesn't have AC that works, or does the AC need recharged? And the fact is, as Mrs. Wizard showed you guys on the HVAC panel, there is no AC. Cars and trucks in the 70s did have AC, but this particular model did not come with AC, and it would be thousands to add a vintage air unit to this, and the compressor and the labor and everything, and she wasn't really interested in doing that, and understandable as well. Another issue was a small leak. Like I just mentioned, it was the transmission oil pan. It was a very simple fix. It's going to take care of it, and that'll be it. The rest of the truck underneath is completely dry. The next complaint she had was the alternator's not charging. She could charge the battery overnight and drive for a little bit and the battery would be dead again. The alternator light was on, or generator light I should say. So we tested the alternator. I did full field on it. It wouldn't charge. I tested the voltage regulator. It's not doing its job either. They both were dead. Now with this customer, I've had zero trouble. I told her that they were bad. She said, okay, we'll go ahead and replace them. I need to get it fixed. No trouble with her. So when we replaced these, we pulled the old ones off and kind of looked at them, and we realized they're fairly new, if not brand new. And I'll bring one at a time to you guys and show you. Here's our voltage regulator. It looks on the back like brand new. Here's our alternator. It's a Best Test brand. Remanufactured in Mexico. It's dead. So many times I've called a customer and say this part's bad or that part's bad, and they say, bull crap, that's a brand new part. I just put that on there. And you know what I say? I don't care. I really don't care if you just put that on there. Parts today are not what they were back in the 60s and 70s and 80s. We all know that they're just not built with the quality they were back then. It doesn't matter what brand you buy. These were likely reman units. They didn't last very long, 6 months or a year, and they're dead again. We put a new alternator, a new voltage regulator, and everything came back to life. 14.2 volts. Charging, the light went out. It's completely happy now. But just keep that in mind. If you just had a part replaced, don't scream at your mechanic. It doesn't matter if it's new. They can still be bad, brand new out of the box. I've seen it so many times. It's understandable to be angry that you just had that replaced and now it's broken again, but very likely the mechanic that you're having look at your vehicle probably didn't break it. It's just the fact that it was a cheap reman and it didn't last. And as mad as you can get, you can throw a tantrum and lay on the floor and kick your feet, and it's still broken. It's got to be fixed, just like in this situation. And luckily, like I said, this customer had zero trouble. So we're back in action with the alternator and the charging system. It's doing great with the battery. Luckily, these are common parts. These you can find because it's basic Chevy small block parts. Those are still pretty readily available. They actually had some in stock, amazingly. I did have to wait 24 hours to get them. They came from a warehouse hub or whatever you want to call it. They didn't have them here in Newton. But they weren't very expensive, just a couple of $300 for labor and everything, and all that's taken care of. Voltage regulator and alternator and testing. Really, it's not that expensive. The last thing the customer's concerned about is it does not have power steering. They would like to get a price together to see what is it going to cost to convert it to power steering. And in the research we did, we started looking in the glove box and looking at the RPO codes from back in 1971. And there's a story here. I don't understand what the story is. The current owner, probably doesn't understand or probably know the whole story either. It would have to be the brother that passed away, unfortunately. So let me show you guys what I found in the glove box. So here we have the RPO codes, or the service parts identification. And one thing you see is 1N40AD, power steering. This truck came from the factory with power steering. So you're like, wait a minute here. We're getting a price together to convert it to power steering. But according to the glove box, it does have power steering. But it doesn't. Let's take a quick look there. As you can see where the power steering pump would normally be on this vehicle, it is not here. It's gone. And if we scan over here to the steering gearbox, and you can see it's a manual steering gearbox. There is no pressure hose, no return hose. It's just gears and grease in there going to the steering column. So there's a big question here. What happened? It came with power steering. It has a perfect installation, a very nice installation of manual steering. Was the frame swapped out? I don't know. You could guess all day long. I don't know the story, and really the story doesn't matter because I know for a fact all I have to do is order all the brand new parts as if it had power steering, the gearbox, the pitman arm, the pump, the bracket, the hoses, and it'll all bolt right up. Because in these years, but the different options, it just bolt this on or bolt that on. It's not hard. Everything's there. The bolt holes are even there. They're already drilled, they're already made. I don't have to modify. I don't have to go to a specialty online store and order a full conversion kit. All I have to do is pretend like I'm putting on a new steering gearbox that's for power steering, remove the manual gearbox, and put this one in its place. It'll bolt right up. You can see it has the caps here for the power steering lines. Here's our pitman arm for the power steering. Here's the correct power steering pump for this year of vehicle. I need to get the brackets. I have ordered them. They bolt on and bolt to the bottom below the alternator down there. Kind of mount to the motor mount as well. And my pressure and return lines. That's it. It's going to cost $2,000 to do this, but that's parts and labor included. Each of these items, some of them are 100, 200, 300, steering gearboxes, 300 or 400. It adds up fast. And there's going to be a lot of labor to route all this stuff. But $2,000 is really not a bad price considering some power steering conversion kits for older models can be $2,000 or $3,000 just for the parts. One thing I did enjoy is because these are so common, these C10 Chevy trucks, they're collectible. There's so many of them, millions of them, that the parts were not hard to find. This is not like working on the Lincoln Continental where they're, like you guys said in the comments, they're a nightmare to find some of those parts. These were easy. They had them in stock. I'll bolt them on, and it will match the RPO code finally that this truck has power steering with the factory parts. So now she won't go down the road or in a parking lot at Walmart turning the steering wheel 6 times. It'll just be a half of a turn or 3/4 of a turn, and it'll get the job done. So that'll take care of that problem for her. We got her the quote, everything together, so we can fix everything here. It's going to be $3,500, possibly $4,000, just depends on what we run into. And she said, do it. It's totally worth it. This is my brother's truck. I really cherish it. I value it. And I want it set up so now I can drive it. The cost is not really the issue here. I want these things done. So I was like, we'll be happy to do it for you. But again, like I mentioned, we are getting out of the 60s and 50s and 70s cars. This one just happened to be scheduled before I made that decree, so we'll get this one done when we'll be done with these. I really, like I mentioned, I really enjoy working on these old cars. I love them. I really do. And this is a happy accident that it was scheduled in. I'm glad it came in. I'm going to enjoy working on it. We were able to get the parts amazingly. But that's usually 99% of the time is not the case. This customer will be in and out in a week or two. We got the parts. It's going to take us some time to get it done. They're on vacation for many, many weeks, so it's really no rush. If you're curious what kind of tools we're going to use to work on this really sweet C10, check my Amazon affiliates link in the description below. We get a small cut and we really appreciate it. Make sure to hit the subscribe button because there will not be very many more old car videos. We're going to not work on those anymore, but there will be many other cool videos to come. Thanks for watching.